Chris English. I worked at GE Aerospace for 38 years, retired in July of 2025, and worked here actually in the summer of 1985. So my father worked at Caterpillar Tractor Company and was part of the friction welding group there. And when they sold off that business and MTI was formed in 1976, he went along with Dietmar Spindler and maybe a couple other employees from Caterpillar to start this company called MTI. When I first came to the Mishawaka plant in 1976, really comprehending that this was the start of this friction welding global leader, I certainly didn't understand that the company had existed for 50 years already, had no comprehension of that. But the idea that there was going to be 50 years after that of development and that I was going to be involved in most of those 50 years, never could have comprehended that. But honestly, I can say it's always been a joy to work with all the MTI people. I mean, I've worked with Dan for 2+ decades, but even before that. And the very first day that I started, we had a project where we were electron beam welding a rotating part on the engine called a fan disc. It's a titanium part. When you EB weld titanium, you can get porosity, and have porosity on a critical engine part that rotates is not a good thing. And so that's when we had the idea to try friction welding. So that was the very first project that I worked on at GE. And that part is still in production today, which is rewarding. We are a friction welding company where we describe ourselves as that because that's such a critical process in making our engines. It's a process that, quite honestly, we couldn't make engines without that process. We had a problem where our engines were getting bigger and bigger, and the machines were not big enough anymore to weld the parts. They didn't have enough inertia, the rotating flywheels, they didn't have enough force. And so we worked with MTI to develop the first, what MTI calls the Model 2000, and we call the Model 800. And that was the first of its kind. It was an engineering marvel at the time. And then we've since developed an even bigger machine, which is another engineering marvel. So these are things that in the aerospace industry, the engines just get bigger and bigger. And so we needed bigger machines. And sounds like you got a small machine, a big machine, you just scale it up. Not quite that simple. And so we worked for many years with MTI. Really have been involved 38 years talking to the people at MTI and getting introduced to the larger machines, the new technologies, and just to see all that grow over decades is very, very rewarding and very interesting. I guess the rest is history.